Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships. Welcome back, everybody.
Great evening, great evening.
Absolutely. It's the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. And Poppy, tonight we are going to Cougar Town.
Oh, Cougar love. Cougar love. Who doesn't love a little
That
bit
kind
of
of sounds
that?
like a pirate, though, I think. My Cougar sounds like a pirate. But then, hey, I'm seeking the treasure. Is that what we're doing tonight?
We're doing a little bit of that, absolutely. Listen, people felt some kind of way about this topic, so we got to deliver for the people.
Absolutely. Give the people what they want. So tonight's topic, we were just, we're always tossing around show topics, show ideas or whatnot, Poppy and I. And the thought came up, well, we talked about sugar babies, sugar daddies, but what about cougars? Older women who are dating younger men. That really, it really hit a chord in the note of the audience. And I was like, wow, the response we got on our Facebook post that you put out, getting feedback from everybody. I have been chuckling. I have to admit, I have been chuckling to myself over these comments.
Oh, some
So
of those
let's jump
comments
right
were off
in.
the chain.
Yes. Okay, so I guess I am the cougar on the show. I'm the older one on the show. I should admit that I have dated younger men. And everybody knows, for transparency's sake, Poppy and I started the show after meeting on Facebook dating, and I knew you were 10 years younger than me.
I am going to be 39 in December. So, I mean, I ain't no spring chicken either, but yeah.
Right. But there is about a 10 plus year difference between the two of us. And, you were not my only.
What? No way. I am shocked and startled.
Yes. But what I ended up finding is that something about younger men, y'all seem to have much more zest and like this great energy that I really liked. And so, not having really dated younger before, I always usually dated 4 to 5 years older than myself, and having gotten to know younger men through the beautiful world of online dating, where you can discover so much about others and yourself.
Yes, you
I
may.
thought,
It's a dangerous
wow,
world. It's a world of opportunities
a world of
online.
opportunity. Yes. And I was just like, wow. But I was like, the younger men were the ones that would really step into me and, putting out these, like real, let's go out and do stuff. Let's hang out. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I was really thrilled at my age to be starting over, thinking a younger man is interested in me. And I really want to dig into the psychology of this, though, because I've had some interesting conversations with men my age, older men, women my age, us talking about, is this the new world order of dating? Like, do younger men want to get with older women because they don't have to do as much work? Because an older woman already has her own stuff. She's typically either been married, had kids, and doesn't really need those things. And is this just someone who is being lazy, or are younger men really interested in the world and mind of an older woman because of her experiences, her confidence? What is it? What is the attraction?
Well, let's jump in. First and foremost, from the research that I've done, cougar, the term
Mm-hmm.
itself, from everything that I looked into, is literally women in their 40s that normally date younger men of 10 years or more. I've also heard 7 years or more, but I've also seen 10 years or more. So let's
Mm-hmm.
get that out there just to kind of clarify and expand on the actual term or slang that has existed for quite some time. Now, you may also hear Puma, which
Mm-hmm.
is generally directed at women in their 30s that normally date younger men of 10 years or more difference. Even though, if you look at the animal kingdom, cougars and pumas tend to be the same thing. Like it's just another, slang for the same species, more or
Mm-hmm.
less. And something else that stood out to me. Now, there's a lot of things to consider, a lot of pros and cons. I would encourage people to check out the age difference podcast that we did a few months ago, where we kind of dug into some of these dynamics. But today we're kind of focusing on cougar love and why the affinity and attraction and why those two, people tend to kind of gravitate to each other. But
Mm-hmm.
let's focus on the pros, and just some that stood out to me, and you kind of touched on them a little bit. But they mentioned that normally, older women tend to be fairly stable in their life
Mm-hmm.
as far as whether it be emotionally, financially, or just, because of life experiences. So the stability definitely is a factor and something that seduces men because, obviously not everybody wants to, try to finance, a woman. There is something appealing to that stability, just like a woman appreciates a man with stability as well. Um, so that was one thing that stood out to me, and I think there's a lot of truth in that statement. That obviously, as we get older, we tend to kind of figure life out and become more stable. That's not breaking news per se. And also within the dynamic of younger men with older women, aka cougars, the family planning doesn't become a major focus, and it's kind of almost understood that that may not be a focus as far as the relationship or dynamic goes.
Well, uh, it's one of those things, like you've kind of seen it all the time. Like I can remember, I don't know if you remember the movie Boomerang with Eddie Murphy and uh, Eartha Kitt plays this Lady Eloise character. And Lady Eloise was older, she's like 60s, 70s, at that point. And she's selling her company. But, you know, Eddie Murphy's uh, character was Marcus Darling because she says his name like that. Um, but that's always in my mind's eye of a cougar because she, traps him into thinking that he's going to have to sleep with her in order to get some sway in the company. But he doesn't realize she doesn't even have any kind of stakeholder share, anything in the company anymore. She's just the logo, the face of the company. And
Oh man, it's like
ends up
that.
sleeping with her. He ends up sleeping with her and feeling all dirty and disgusting. But that's a funny, humorous remembrance of like this older woman, younger man kind of dynamic. But when I became that woman, I was like, oh God, these 30 something year olds were coming at me. And um, I was like, what's happening? Like, I really kind of had an identity crisis for a moment because that was so unusual for me. And it was sort of like something's happened. There's been a shift. I was the younger woman, who older men were, you know, hanging after. And not to say that I haven't dated any people that are, 50s and up, but I was like, this is something special here though, because there's something very um, there's some chemistry that I discovered with younger men. It was just this excitement, and I don't know if it's because I don't really feel old. Tell you the truth, I'm 49, but I don't feel broken down. I don't feel over the hill. I feel like I'm just really hitting my stride with my age. And so, and even friends of mine, they look amazing. People are often um, surprised to find that, we're in our advanced 40s, not just in our 40s. And so I think that's a real tribute to like living your best life. And maybe I think sometimes that's what a lot of the men have said to me when I really think back to some of the comments. I can remember one man saying younger women tended to need so much more um, encouragement and uh, like compliment and flattery, and the boosting of her confidence was, and that was probably how I was in my 20s, like that sort of needy, not sure of myself. And once you've lived through some things, once you've um, discovered your own inner strength, like that's something that nobody can really take from you. And I do walk into a room, I think, with a different sort of confidence and savoir faire than when I was in my 20s. As far as like, your sexual appetite, those things are starting to peak as you get into your 40s, just really from a scientific standpoint that, you've raised your children, you don't have the same sort of schedule where you're having to, tend to smaller kids for the most part. My children are pretty self-sufficient, and, you know, I'm with my last teenager. And so it's like you got this second renewed energy, I guess, too. And I think that really does make you sparkle differently um, when
Oh,
you walk to a
absolutely.
crowd.
I definitely think that, experience is something that, you can't buy. Like it's either you've gained it and have it and learn from it, or you didn't, basically. So it is something that it's hard to duplicate in
Hmm.
that sense, especially when it comes to life experience. But um, breaking it down from that point, that was another pro that was mentioned with some of the the digging that I did, was the sexual compatibility that um women, the majority, right, that there's a belief that the majority of women start to really hit their sexual prime in their late 30s and up. So the problem with that is that most men, right, the average man,
Hmm.
their sexual prime is between 18 and 25. After 25, if a man doesn't take care of himself, uh, you're going to start declining. You're going to start seeing that you're not going to have the same performance, the same energy levels, and the same sexual energy. That's just, it's science. There's a lot of stuff that supports that. Obviously, how you take care of yourself, anomalies, being healthy, what you eat, your diet, all those things are going to play a factor. The way of life, right, or how you live life, all those things are going to play a factor in that. But they say that for a male, the best sexual peak is between the ages of 18 and 25. And I tend to believe that because around that time, as a man,
Right. You're
you
all
got
about
you
procreation.
got a lot of energy, which is just
Right.
bottled up.
It's all about, keeping the species going, procreating.
Hey,
So,
it's biology. It's real talk and
yeah.
it's biology at the same time. And then obviously from a woman's perspective, a woman starts to kind of hit her stride around that time. And plus, they've had time to kind of discover what they like, what they don't like. They know their body pretty well. And, because
Hmm.
of that experience, they've explored things and they know, hey, this is for me, this is not for me. So there is something to be said, right? When you're talking to a woman who has experience, they're pretty in tune with what they expect and what they like and what they want, compared to a younger woman, right? Who's still kind of trying to figure out who they're attracted to or what they're attracted to or what's their type, what's not their type, and all those things. So, from that aspect alone, just the sexual chemistry and compatibility, those two sides tend to really gravitate and work out well. But obviously, me and you both know, and that it takes more than just sexual chemistry
Right.
to make something,
Relationship.
to
Right.
make something last long term, right? Short term,
Right.
sure, you could have a fling and you'll have a blast, but then obviously that can only get you so far. But that was definitely one of the pros that was mentioned, that it seems to be a good fit from a sexual chemistry and compatibility aspect of things.
Right. And I think one of the other things too, as far as from the female older woman perspective, is uh and this was in something I read, that ageless feeling that someone youthful makes you feel like it doesn't become about um you know like what you wear or what you have, as much as somebody who has excitement, who's um got that energy and wants to share that kind of high buzz energy with you, and it does make you feel like, it melts the clock for you in terms of the ego. um I would think, um you know I, you're a head turner, Poppy, and we were doing our photo shoot or whatever, like being seen with a tall, handsome, Latin lover on your arm, like that doesn't hurt at all. As you age, like that really makes you feel like a daggone
What can Brown do for you?
Aud- Audrey Hepburn of, or something. I really felt like, I was, not to say that I don't think highly of myself. Like, I don't think I'm walking into the room making anybody look bad either. But
No,
I
you still got the juice. You
felt
definitely got the juice, and you take care of yourself, and
right.
you have a very vibrant energy about you that definitely makes a difference. And I think most people like spontaneity, like something new, because in a world where it's very easy to fall into the same bland routine,
Mm-hmm.
something that adds something different, something new, some spontaneity, man, it can make a world of difference.
Right.
One of the other pros that stood out to me was the maturity and experience that comes with dating an older woman. And that to me, obviously, like we touched on, is something that you just can't compare. And it makes a world of difference. And I've been on record that um, some of the best lovers, as far as women goes, that I've been with have been women that were, a little bit older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not coincidence, in my opinion. That's just, hey, they
Right.
grown, they know what they like, they know
Right.
what a man likes, they understand that, hey, men need certain things to thrive. Men, require certain things from a woman. And I think that there is something to be said about that. And that plays a big factor. Um, Now, I do want to get into some of the cons as well, right? Because obviously on the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, we like to
Yeah, we want to
highlight,
keep
we
it
like to
cute.
highlight the good and we like to highlight the bad, just so that, people are aware and
Mm-hmm.
mindful, and, make their own, decisions from there.
Right.
Um, Obviously, if you're a man, right, that is looking to start a family or to continue to have children, then obviously that's something that you really need to be aware of, because that's going to be an issue, right? Because odds are that when you meet a woman who's quote unquote a cougar, she's probably past that phase already. Whether it be because she had her children, at a younger age, or she just doesn't want to deal with a baby, or she's focusing on trying to get rid of her kids, not collect more kids.
Right. Uh, you know, those are some of those kind of non-negotiable areas that make companionship versus relationship sometimes a much more doable thing with that type of age gap. In my research, I found a list of, you know tips when dating an older woman, and I found that these were I thought these were really pretty good. One was be assertive.
Mm.
Don't shy with an older woman. Now that doesn't mean be aggressive either, but you know, make your case and come with it. Don't shuffle step and be all with the situation. Two, it said, was it avoid labels. Like, don't make references to the woman as a cougar, because some women do still find that term offensive, even though nowadays a lot have brandished it, and might even have it on their car, uh, glamour tags. Ignore the age gap, because it should not be about how old a person is, and let that be the focus of the interaction. Because then it's like a freak show. Like, are you just dating me because I'm older? Are you just dating me because I'm fill in the blank? Um, Take it slow. You know, older women do not like to be rushed. I know that firsthand, and from some other ladies who
Slow
are in.
burners.
Yeah, don't want to be rushed. We like to savor. Like, you're at that age where I like drinking wine that tastes good, not just cheap wine because we can afford the $2 bottle. I want it to taste good and I want to savor it. Um, be assertive, avoid labels, and really listen to that woman. Like, I think every woman wants to be listened to, but I think when you've acquired a certain amount of wisdom and um, you know, you've handled your business, so to speak. I feel like I'm at an age where, don't come up in here trying to tell me how to run my stuff and how I'm gonna run my show. Especially, independent ladies who, they really don't need your money. They really don't need anything, but they want to spend time in your presence and in your company. So, really make it not just about the physical, but about that mental connection as well. Because for most women, by this point, it really is a mind game as much as it is anything else.
No, I
So,
agree. Like you definitely I think you have to be mindful of how you approach that, right? Because if you come in guns blazing, try to boss around somebody, that probably won't work out well. You definitely have to frame it with the right approach. Be understanding and have some open dialogue, and like you said, state your case, but don't talk about it, be about it as well.
right.
And a lot of women, I've heard a lot, I've heard a lot of women, particularly older women, they're like, sweet words don't
Mm-mm.
really work with me anymore. That
You're
stuff
not gonna
is,
talk me to
it
death
rings
anymore.
hollow. It's about actions. Grown women, they want to see actions. They want to see, look, you can call me beautiful and hey sunshine every morning all you want, but I want to see how your actions do.
Line up. That's
I have
right.
heard that from a lot of women, who are mature and a little bit older, that they've already seen that song and dance. So good luck
Mm-hmm.
trying to pull that off. But another con that I saw that kind of stood out, and even some of our listeners touched on when we kind of rolled out the topic idea, was a con can be that a cougar woman can take on a motherly role to the younger man,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I could definitely see that happening, and you wouldn't even know it that it's happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for some, it's not a con, because maybe they haven't had good motherly nurturing. You know, I've been talking with friends about this concept of, softness in womanhood, and being able to get into a softer space, but not only for myself, but being able to be soft. For there are some men who need that added softness in their life, like they're out there challenging the world, trying to make their dreams come true, trying to take care of their family, of origin, and maybe if they have children or whatever. And being a soft place for a man. But when you're a woman that's out there trying to get after it and make your dreams come true, and you and your man are right there in the same place at the same time, it can almost become a competition with couples. And so I think for some men, the added bonus of an older woman who maybe has had children and does know, like she studied men and knows kind of what their psyche is like. I think there's that benefit of that's a soft space, a refuge for a man to come in from the storm. I hear men saying this all the time. I want a woman to be my peace. I don't agree with the way they say that, but I get the concept. Like they want a
Sure.
soft place. They don't want to fight with the person who is supposed to be on their team when they come home. And I don't think most of us as women want that either, but um, being able to provide that sort of comfort to someone, it is sort of a motherly skill. It is definitely more maternal feeling than it is, you know, um, something you might think about with dads. Dads, you think about protection and providing, but with moms, it is that sort of, come on, baby, let me make it better. Come on, sit on my lap. So that can be a real treat for men who maybe haven't had that mother figure early on.
I think
Um,
it could be that for the man. However, I could see how if you don't set proper boundaries
mhm,
and if you don't have some good communication skills,
mhm,
that could get out of hand, and that could also get frustrating for the woman, right? Because if you're like,
mhm,
hey, I'm starting to feel like I'm your mom, not your
right,
woman. You know what I mean? Because
right.
that kind of starts bleeding over into the
Mhm,
codependency situations, or the
mhm,
situations where where a person or a partner feels like, hey, I'm giving it 100 and I feel like I'm only getting 50% in return.
yeah, that's a great point.
So
I agree
so
with you.
so I think there's a line, right, that you have to be mindful of, that you're not crossing, or you don't become overbearing. And it even said in the article that I read from Alpha M regarding the pros and cons of dating an older woman, and the guy who runs the website, he actually married an older woman, so he's kind of speaking with firsthand experience on some of these things. He mentioned that the motherly role can become an issue when the woman per se starts to make executive decisions without, and getting his input or his feedback, right, on that decision. And that's where, as a man, right, you would need to voice your opinion and say, hey, next time, you can't just make those kind of decisions. You have to at least have a conversation with me before you make that decision, so that we both are on the same page and wavelength with whatever we decide to do. So,
Yeah.
I agree. It can definitely be beneficial, but it could also spill over and become a burden if, there's not a healthy balance with that.
Well, I like what Heidi Jones said in her comments. Hers was, my partner wasn't particularly looking for an older woman. He wasn't looking for anything at all. He was comfortable with himself, which I found very attractive. You made the comment, that's old school love, where it just naturally manifests, the good old days. That's exactly it. And
That's what it sounded
Heidi
like. That's what it
replied,
sounded like to me.
yeah, exactly. She said he's an engineer and he wasn't picking up on the cues. I pretty much had to club him over the head and drag him back to my cave for him to understand I was interested. He's my best friend. And yeah, some fellas don't read the tea leaves well. Jorge, you're exactly right.
I mean, listen, I
Some
know how men
men,
work. I mean, I've talked to some of my friends, and I'm like, bro, these are signs. You need to,
mhm.
grab the bull by the horns and take charge and handle this situation, because these signs are these are important signs that you need to address and take on.
uh, Nisi Herrera says, Nietzsche or Nisi Herrera. My husband has stated his reason was because I was more mature than women his age. I knew exactly what I wanted in a relationship and I wasn't playing games. Us older women are also more nurturing. Um, I have heard younger men say that. Like, there's some younger men who are extremely thoughtful and, very sapiosexual, and sometimes they feel like the women their age are gaming and into the games, and they didn't want to be, you know, gamed. So I have heard, I've heard that as well, Miss Herrera. So that's a great point.
I like
Um,
it. I think that's a fit. That's definitely something, that could very well happen, and got to be mindful of it. There was another con that I saw that really stood out to me, and I think it does have some merits. He mentioned that when you date an older woman, there's a possibility for more possible baggage, just for the simple reason that, hey, she's dated longer, she's been married longer,
mhm,
she's been on earth longer, right? So
right,
uh, if she has open wounds or trauma or baggage that she's carrying around, there's a possibility that there could be more of that. So as a man, you do have to be mindful and even prepare yourself, or try to be supportive and understand where she's coming from with that stuff.
right. Mike Garcia made a great comment. Excuse me. I personally prefer a cougar because with age comes experience. There are none of the childish games or irresponsibilities that comes with youth. Also, more often than not, when it comes to making love, there's a fiery passion. And as we all know, that level of passion increases the enjoyment of the act. Flip side of that is if it's just having sex, there's an understanding that we both aim to please each other and not aiming to claim another body on the tally sheet. I could go on, but I digress. LOL. But
Hey,
definitely
listen, I
right.
like the way he put that. He kind of laid it out pretty nicely. I think he's spot
Yeah,
on some of that stuff.
and that's sort of the pro and the con right there. Kind of all together. That whole, you know, being honest about what we're doing. You know, are we really seeking out a relationship, or are we just about, filling a need for the other person? And I think, again, with every relationship, no matter what the age, no matter the sex, the gender, the race, whatever, being honest with yourself and knowing what you want, I think, is number one. And then number two, being honest with the other person to say, I would, I would like to look at this with you. Are you interested? Not really setting somebody up for a long term game when you're just trying to get in and get out, especially if that's what they want to. And you could really both have what you want if it's, if you line up correctly.
Yeah, and I think that's where the maturity aspect of things, right, in the experience, where older women, cougar women, they've seen a lot, and they understand how some of these games work. So if they feel that you're trying to run game, they're going to smell it from a mile away. So your best play is to be honest and keep it a buck, and that might even work out in your favor. She might even be like, all right, then if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we go on record on the podcast, just keep it 100 and let the chips fall where they may with that. But that's always the best play, because when you start trying to be deceitful, when you start trying to use people's emotions and use their feelings for your benefit or selfish agendas, then that's when people get hurt, and then that's where people start to really you know feel some kind of way about how you went about
Mm-hmm.
it, and then that's when things get real messy, and that's where trauma and all that bad stuff that comes with it starts to really become a big problem.
Absolutely. And nobody ever wants to be lied to or mistreated or what have you. Nobody. And I think on the con side of that, you know, um, and I have seen this before, an older woman who's just using a younger man to make another man jealous.
Oh
Whether it's a
wow.
spouse or a lover or whatever, like knowing that this person is young, feisty, and in his prime, and I want you to feel like somebody wants me more than you do. And those are dangerous games. Like I don't get with that and agree with that at all. But there are some women who throw up their younger men in in their lovers' faces because they want to get some sort of reaction and make their man feel some type of way. Whether it's jealousy or I don't know what kind of games people play, but that's so dangerous because people get their heart involved in a situation thinking that it's one thing, and then you're really not feeling them that way. Like that can really set off a whole chain of events that can, you know, life threatening, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it starts with, being vengeful, holding resentment, or just, sheer pettiness. And those
Hmm.
things never, never lead to anything good. Another con and the last one that really stood out to me and that I found interesting was, as an older woman, uh, you're normally going to expect that they have kids, and depending on the age group of the children, those kids are going to be her priority. So
Hmm.
as a man, right, particularly a younger man in this scenario, you have to be okay understanding that. And if you don't understand that or don't know how to compromise or deal with that, then it's going to be tough, because if you make a woman choose between her family and kids, versus you, more
Hmm.
often than not, obviously she's going to lean kids and family. Which,
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's just the reality of it. So understanding that, or coming into a situation where, hey, she might have, two kids in high school, then you may make plans for her, and they may be good plans with good intentions, but if something happens to her son or daughter, she's going to be like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. And that's happened to me
Hmm.
before. And if it's a trend or a pattern, then yeah, then that's an issue. But if it's a one-off scenario, then hey, that's what, that's life. It happens.
Right. Life happens for everyone. Um, I was going to say, and this is maybe a future show topic, but Melissa Ann Bergeron says, I have no choice but to date younger men because there are zero single men my age. She's 41. Melissa, we're going to have to get you on the show or something, honey. Look,
Yeah, I pushed back on that because I was like,
yeah.
the divorce rate is pretty high these days. So I
Yeah.
mean, maybe
I
it
was like,
could
oh
be
my
that,
God.
it's the men that she's attracted to that aren't single, but there's plenty of single dudes. I can promise you that, because
Yeah, in their
these dating app,
40s
these dating apps are making a lot of money.
and are full of them, full of them. I was like, I wonder if she's online or not.
Yeah,
Because,
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I feel like we need more context to that, but with the divorce rate the way it is, there's plenty of single people out
they're
there.
out here. Just you might have to go to a few different places to get to the right ones, but um,
I think, yeah, I think the more important follow up question, and which, I probably should have asked, looking, back on it, which should have been, well, what are you using to date? Like, are you
uh-huh.
meeting people in social settings? Are you using online dating, or are you, just waiting for Prince Charming to arrive at the door, or how are you going about it? I think that's probably the important follow up question after that statement.
Yeah, so I did want to throw that out there that Melissa, you know, maybe we need to have a show about finding people in your pool, because it sounds like that's definitely an issue here. Um, Rashad, grown Simba Matthews says they are more in tune with themselves and they know what they want. And he looks a little young on there, so I thought, well, he sounds like he might be, he might know what he's talking about dating a cougar. Um, Yona Kaplan, she said they've told me it's because younger women are looking for long-term relationships to start a family or for someone to support them financially, in terms of what older, what the younger men are saying about older women. And I thought that was a kind of interesting point there. Um,
I think it's a fair point. I mean,
mhm.
it makes sense if you connect the dots. I mean, obviously not
Then
all, but we're speaking
take a
more in
woman.
the average woman, right?
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
And then going with that list that whoever these women are made, that places you can't take them on a date. I was
Oh
like,
hell,
oh my
that's
God.
another podcast topic in itself right
We're
there.
going to
Don't even
come
get me
back to that
don't
too.
get me started on that.
Absolutely. But Brian Miller, we haven't heard from Brian in a while. Brian, it was great to have your comment on. He said, honestly speaking, I think most women would prefer to date a man in her age range, but men her age range prefer younger women, especially when he's established. However, a young man, when he is not looking for anything serious, would deal with an older woman. She usually has her own place, her own money, and she's in her sexual peak, so he doesn't have to worry about getting her pregnant or menstrual cycles. So they vibe sexually until it runs its course. Because, like I said, when I first responded, most women still want and prefer a man that's older or in her age range. Um, you know, I'm not sure if I agree, but Mary Matthews did agree. She said, especially if they are super young and have no good established career or home, etc. I guess, saying that the men are looking for someone who is established because, like, they don't have as much to bring to the table themselves yet. So um, maybe that makes more of a balanced, um, you know, um, a balanced situation ship, if not a relationship, with a younger man, uh, knowing I can't offer you anything but this. And that's so, that's minimalist, of course. We're trivializing it for the sake of our edited show. But, um, you know, there are some people, that've been out there on online who've been together, 15, 20 years. And there's like a 10, 15 year age span with the woman being older and him being younger. I've seen some of those couples on Instagram and Facebook where, they were together since he was in his mid to late 20s, and she was already, 40, but they're still making it work. So I don't think it's impossible to have a solid relationship with someone who is
Oh, absolutely not. I think
young.
it all. I mean, it boils down to obviously the in this scenario, right? Because of the age differences, it's going to boil down a lot to what are you looking to get out of a romantic relationship, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're looking for the traditional standard, society desires that we've grown up to see, all over the world, which is get married, have a family, have kids, all that, then yeah, that's going to be a challenge. But I do feel that in present day, it is becoming more acceptable where men and women are okay with not having children because
Mhm.
I've run into them where they're like, hey, I don't want kids. I don't want that responsibility. I just want to enjoy my life. Because let's be honest, I don't have children, but I'm sure you can speak on this. And I've seen friends who have children. Once you have children, your whole life changes, and children are very expensive. And when you have
Mhm.
kids, your social life goes out the window. That's verbatim what I've been told.
Well, you know, it's really not untrue.
So I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure you can speak on this, and this is what I've heard from fathers and mothers on this topic. So it's not
Well, if you're
crazy
doing
talk. I think there's
parenting the
definitely
way,
a lot of truth in those statements.
right, if you're parenting like you should, there is little time because a lot of your activities become very centered around your children, whether it's the birthday parties or athletics or activities, family stuff, it becomes that sort of thing. So, honestly, getting to this age and dating still, it is kind of funny because a lot of my identity was wrapped around my children for such a long time that, when my daughter graduates, I'm going to be thinking about, like, what does life for Nelsa look like on the other side of, you know, my hardcore parenting, parenting young people as opposed to parenting adults. So, that's a whole nother show topic itself.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
absolutely, man. We we've
those children.
It sounds like we've hit like 3 potential future podcasts with this particular show, but I love it. That's
I know,
awesome.
I know it.
But as always, putting a bow on this,
Mhm.
I think it's an interesting topic. It's definitely a thing. I've experienced it. I've have dated older women, and I do think that the pros and cons are legitimate. But at the end of the day, if you're compatible with somebody and you love somebody and it works, you'll figure out a way, and the age shouldn't matter, although it is definitely something to consider and be mindful of. But we appreciate all the support from our listeners. We appreciate all the feedback and all the comments. They were really good, very thoughtful, and
Absolutely.
very honest and raw, which, that's kind of how we get down on this podcast.
We
But
love it.
everybody check us out. Follow us on the YouTube channel at The Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Please give us likes whenever you find a topic interesting, obviously. Leave us comments. If you want
Absolutely.
to hear a part 2, a part 3, or if you have show ideas, leave it in the comment section on our YouTube channel. And I promise you, we will look into it. And if we see that it's something that, creates a buzz, then hey, we're here for it.
Absolutely, everybody. Thanks again for staying with us as we start this season 3 journey. Until next time.
Buenas noches, good people. Thanks for joining us today on The Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Do you have show ideas? Email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify or anchor.fm for more great shows.